We begin with a CNN exclusive that sheds new light on events leading up to journalist Jamal Khashoggi's murder at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, Turkey. CNN has now obtained hundreds of text messages showing the Washington Post journalist's blunt criticism of the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and a plan to empower other critics of the Saudi regime. This comes as the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal are now reporting that in the hours leading up to Khashoggi's murder, the Crown Prince exchanged messages with the senior aide who allegedly oversaw the assassination. CNN's Nina Dos Santos is joining us now live from London. Nina, you're doing excellent reporting on this. Tell us a little bit more about your exclusive report.
Well, thanks very much, Wolf. In public, Jamal Khashoggi was, of course, very critical of Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, and the new direction that he was taking the country on. But he never went as far as to have any kind of activist, dissident activity to try and enact regime change back home, as far as he knew in terms of his public persona. But these WhatsApp messages that we've managed to get hold of paint a very different picture. Somebody who was not just willing to engage with dissidents outside of Saudi Arabia, but also potentially to fund their activities as well. Take a look.
These are words you won't have read in Jamal Khashoggi's columns. Instead, they are WhatsApp messages never seen before, sent by Khashoggi in the year before his death. They lay bare his disdain for Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince, saying, quote, "He is like a beast, like Pac-Man. The more victims he eats, the more he wants." In another, "May God rid us and this nation of this predicament." The words were exchanged with Omar Abdulaziz, a fellow critic in exile in Canada.
He believed that MBS is the issue, is the problem. And someone has to tell him that, you have to be stopped.
Talk like this is dangerous for those from a country with one of the world's worst records for human rights. And it wasn't just political views that the pair was trading, but plans to hold the Saudi state to account, creating an army of so-called cyber bees on social media, leveraging Khashoggi's name and the 340,000-strong Twitter following of his confidant.
In the beginning, it was a bit difficult for us to have this kind of relationship. For me, I was a dissident, and he was a guy who worked for the government for almost 35 years.
Khashoggi pledged funds, and Abdulaziz bought the hardware, hundreds of foreign SIM cards to send back home, enabling dissidents to avoid detection. In one message, Abdulaziz writes, "I sent you a brief idea about the work of the electronic army." "Brilliant report," Khashoggi replies. "I will try to sort out the money. We have to do something."
How much money did he originally say he would commit to the project?
He said 30,000.
30,000 US dollars?
Yes.
How dangerous is a project like that in Saudi Arabia?
You might be killed because of that. You might be jailed. They might send someone to assassinate you.
Just like Khashoggi, Abdulaziz believes that he was also targeted after 2 Saudi emissaries were dispatched to Canada, he says, last May, to coax him into the embassy there. He made these secret recordings of their meetings and shared them with CNN.
We
have come to you with a message from Mohammed bin Salman. I want you to be reassured. We don't have to approach someone from an official department or the state security. The Saudi Arabian embassy awaits you.
When Abdulaziz refused, they got to him another way, hacking his phone, according to a lawsuit Abdulaziz filed this week against the Israeli firm behind the spyware. When the pair's plans were discovered, Khashoggi panicked. "God help us," he wrote.
How much of a target did that make both of you?
The hacking of my phone played a major role on what happened to Jamal. I'm really sorry to say that. We were trying to teach people about human rights, about freedom of speech. That's it. This is the only crime that we've committed.
Well, what you've just seen there is just a snippet of some of the material. 400 WhatsApp messages exchanged between Khashoggi and Omar Abdulaziz, and 10 hours of audio recordings that Abdulaziz made with those 2 Saudi emissaries over the course of 5 days that my producer Michael Kaplan and myself have managed to get our hands on. We're still pouring through this large cache of material for more clues as to what may have caused Khashoggi to be targeted in the fashion that he was 4 months after this particular escapade. But I should also also point out that in a poignant twist here, Abdulaziz says that it was probably Khashoggi who ended up saving his life, because it was the elder man who said, only meet these individuals in public places and under no circumstances go into any Saudi official buildings. We've reached out to the Saudi Arabian government for comment on this. They have yet to get back to us, and also to the Israeli firm at the centre of that lawsuit. Back to you.
Excellent reporting, Nina. Thank you so much, Nina Dos Santos in London. And we're going to get back to her when she gets some more information. And despite all the mounting evidence out there, top Trump administration officials continue to insist there's no direct evidence linking the Crown Prince to the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. I sat down with the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, for an exclusive interview and asked him about the U.S. position on Khashoggi's death. Do you believe the Saudi explanation that the Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman, did not know about the murder of Jamal Khashoggi?
Well, I've spoken about this a lot. I continue to work on this issue. President Trump and this administration sanctioned 17 people that we came to learn were connected to the murder, the heinous murder of Jamal Khashoggi. All across the United States government, we continue to investigate, to try and learn, to make determinations about what happened, and we'll continue to hold those responsible accountable. We've been very, very, very clear about that since literally the very beginning. We also, Wolf, and this is important, are doing everything we can to make sure that we get it right for America, that we keep the strategic relationship with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and protect the American people. Those two things can both be done, and we've done it very effectively today.
Because you have said that, and you're a former CIA director, so you understand how U.S. intelligence analysis works. You said there's no direct reporting connecting the Crown Prince to order the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. Can you confidently tell his 4 children that he was not involved in that order?
Well, obviously sitting in an unclassified setting, here's what I can say. I have read every piece of intelligence that is in the possession of the United States government. And when it is done, when you complete that analysis, there's no direct evidence linking him to the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. That is an accurate statement, is an important statement, and it is the statement that we are making publicly today. So
the bottom line is that the U.S. is going to continue to maintain the same relationship, strategic cooperation with Saudi Arabia right now, irrespective of what may have happened.
Today, we're working with the Saudis in Afghanistan. We're working with the Saudis to push back against the Ayatollah Khomeini, who killed hundreds of Americans, Wolf, and they are an enormous support to us. They are a relationship that has mattered for 70 years across Republican and Democrat administrations alike, and it remains an important relationship, and we're aiming to keep that relationship with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
All right, let's discuss. Joining me now, CNN Global Affairs analyst Max Boot and Samantha Vinograd. She's the former senior advisor to the National Security Advisor under President Obama. She's a CNN national security analyst. Sam, what's your reaction to this CNN exclusive that we just heard from Nina Dos Santos that Khashoggi and a fellow Saudi critic were discussing the idea of an electronic army?
Well, it certainly fits with the reasoning that we and the intelligence community have probably pulled together as to why Mohammed bin Salman and his cohorts wanted to assassinate and planned an assassination of Jamal Khashoggi. They knew that he was actively working to expose the areas that they are falling down so hard on: human rights, freedom of the press, and other issues. And obviously, if these WhatsApp messages were hacked successfully, the Crown Prince had access to them, and this added fuel to the fire for why they wanted him assassinated. But Wolf, you asked Secretary of State Pompeo exactly the right question, which is whether he believes Mohammed bin Salman was involved in the murder, and he perfected the art of the dodge. He did not answer your question, and he said that there was no direct evidence linking the Crown Prince to the murder. He did not say whether he thought that the Crown Prince was involved or not.
You know, Max, the Washington Post is now reporting that Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince, sent messages to his advisor who oversaw the team that eventually killed Jamal Khashoggi in the hours before and after his death. So is it smart? Is it accurate? Is it wise for Secretary Pompeo and Secretary Mattis and the president and other senior administration officials to say there's no direct evidence linking the Crown Prince to the murder?
This is just ridiculous, Wolf. Pompeo and Mattis and Trump are turning the United States into a laughingstock by denying what is so obvious, that this hit team of Saudi operatives, many of them members of the Crown Prince's own security detail, they could not have walked into a Saudi consulate in Istanbul and killed a high-profile journalist without a sign-off from the Crown Prince. And apparently we have pretty direct reporting to indicate that is in fact the case. And yet you heard the evasions from Secretary Pompeo and talking to you. Yesterday I was at the Reagan Defense Forum in Los Angeles, and Jim Mattis was there, and he again repeated his evasive reply saying there's no smoking gun. Well, let me tell you, there's a lot of people in prison right now in this country on less evidence than we have against Mohammed bin Salman. So to assert that we can't link him to this crime is just ridiculous, and it indicates this kind of obsequious attitude towards Saudi Arabia that does not serve American interests well.